All right, the 19th of August 2022, a very good morning wherever you are watching us from, and you're right on time for Kirk in the Morning. Thank you so much for always tuning in every Friday to make sure you catch an episode of what has been happening all through the week. Welcome aboard. My name is Chris Sambo. I'll be your company for the next few hours as we seek to talk matters to do with the healing of the nation after the election, after the announcement of the president-elect. What next for the country? We'll be talking matters to do with the healing of the nation right in a few. But as we always do, we begin on the roads, take a review of what is happening on different roads this morning, and then we get into our discussion. All right, so quick we get into the roads. Just want to begin with one of the major roads that links into the central business district this morning, and that is the Thika Superhighway. And this morning it doesn't look so much good right from Muthaiga in the junction connecting with Kiambu Road all the way through Pangani to the central business district. That is matters to do with Thika Road, but all from the start looks so much good, but the traffic extends all the way from Utalii Survey through to Muthaiga, and then gets into Pangani all the way through Ngara, getting into the central business district. That is a Thika Road that doesn't look so much good right from Utalii. I just want to take a look at yet another road, that is Jogoo Road. Jogoo Road looks so much good this morning, but different snarl-ups at different points right from Shauri Moyo all the way headed to the central business district through the feeder roads. And if you can be able to avoid as well the Makadara area, then it will be of your importance if indeed you need to get where you're going right on time. That is that is how Jogoo Road looks this morning. And Mombasa Road doesn't look so much bad this morning. The expressway is all clear, as you can be if you're using expressway, as well as Mombasa Road. Just a little bit of snarl up when you get to Nyayo Stadium as you head to Haile Selassie Avenue. That is where you get a little bit of a snarl up, but then it looks so much good this morning. Talking about Ngong Road, Ngong Road doesn't look so much good. There are different traffic snarl-ups at different points, so if you can be able to use an alternative route up to Upper Hill, Ngong Road doesn't look so much good. And looking at the central business district, it doesn't look so much good. There is a lot of movements at the central business district. That is Haile Selassie Avenue, Moi Avenue, all avenues linking into the CBD. They don't look so much good. There is so much movement, maybe trying to catch up after an election period that saw quite a quiet city, but then now things are back to normal, and there is so much movement in the central business district. That is all the major roads are looking this morning, and hoping that you can be able to avoid the traffic at different points. Thika Road doesn't look so much good from Survey. Mombasa Road looks so much good. Some is the expressway. Ngong Road, different snarl-ups at different points, as well as Jogoo Road that doesn't look so much good right from Makadara through Shauri Moyo all the way to the central business district. And that is what is happening on the roads. As we always do now, we get a review of what is in the newspapers, and then we get into our discussion. So this morning, what are the newspapers saying and what are they telling us? I begin with the Daily Nation that talks about the Raila versus Ruto, of course, highlighting the looming petition of the presidential election that is expected to happen early next week, as the Azimio la Umoja set to file a petition. If at all they will be filing a petition. So the Daily Nation talks about a supreme battle. The Azimio coalition is working on a broad three-pronged strategy to contest the declaration by Wafula Chebukati of William Ruto as president-elect. And in the grand scheme of things, the arguments will all come down to what Raila team believe are inconsistencies in IEBC's vote figures, declared turnout numbers, and the undeclared skeletons in falling out of the commission. That story He has written on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation that the basis of what the Azimio la Umoja seeks to file their petition in regards to the turnout, reporting that despite the number of voters who turned out, the IEBC recorded less number while announcing the results, while as well talking about the voting patterns and also a split commission. Could the Sherera faction of the divided electoral commission have more secrets in the bag? That is what the Azimio la Umoja will be putting their basis. And on page 2 goes on that story in depth while highlighting some of the faces that we expect to see at the Supreme Court. Of course, Chief Justice Martha Koome will be leading the panel of judges of the Supreme Court in hearing that petition. Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilo, as well as Mohamed Ibrahim, is a judge of the Supreme Court, Njoki Ndongo, Dr. Smoking Wanjala, Isaac Lenaola, William Oko. Same faces that we've seen before. They will also be facing again yet another petition. So that is a story that you need to take a look at page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. And page 5 talks about the preparedness of the judiciary in setting in for the election petition, as well as page 6 that talks about blow to Raila and Azimio la Umoja as the UDM party ditches Azimio. We'll be taking a look at that later on. A blow to Raila as parties continue to ditch the Azimio la Umoja and joining the Kenya Kwanza, the party led by Mandera Governor Ali Roba, now joining the Kenya Kwanza team led by President-elect William Ruto. And also on the other on page 7 of the Daily Nation talks about Uhuru promises smooth power handover at meetings with clerics and U.S. delegation. That is matters of what happened yesterday, where President Uhuru Kenyatta met with different clergy and the U.S. delegation that is in the country and assured of a smooth transition of power, even as the petition to dispute the president election seeks to take shape early next week. And on page 8 talks about Rigathi dropped from Gakuru inquest. That is what is unraveling in regards to the cases that have been following now Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua. And that is the Daily Nation. Just take a quick look at the Standard newspaper on what it has on its top page. The top page there of President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga and William Ruto, all of them meeting the delegation from the United States of America led by Senator Andrew Coons in the company of U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman, who has been in the country for quite a short time and now seeks to bridge a peace before the handover is done of the incoming government. That is President Uhuru Kenyatta there on the top page of the Standard newspaper. Raila Odinga and William Ruto, of course, the United States of America being a key stakeholder in ensuring that Kenya transitions in peace. And on page 2 of the Standard talks about a jinxed body. Dark past owns election agency as Chebukati prepares to exit, of course, highlighting the divisions that have been witnessed in the IEBC right from 2007, 2013, and now 2022. That is matters to do with the IEBC. And on page 4, it's about matters to do with the return of schools reopen amid the biting high cost of living. That is the confusion that is being witnessed all through this week in regards to back to school. Outcry of a postponement of polls in Mombasa and Kakamega. That is on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, the IEBC saying that it is not ready to hold the elections in the post-mod counties of Kakamega and Mombasa. And that is what the Standard has written. You can be able to grab the copy of the Daily Nation and also the copy of the Standard and be able to get a glimpse of what has been written there. And the People Daily talks about the top page talks about the statement by Uhuru that we'll have a smooth handover. That is talking about transition. Of course, a duplication of what has been written on the other newspapers, so you can be able as well get a copy of the People Daily and see what is inside. Different stories written, and the highlight of the People Daily being page 6 of the People Daily that talks about a house of 30 freshers and 5 veterans. That is the Senate that will see an entry of 30 new senators, as well as 5 old senators who will now be taking in the next parliament. That is a story that you need to read and see which are the new faces that will be joining the Senate. Majority of them being new. 30 of them out of the possible 47 are now new in the Senate, and that is what the People Daily talks about, and also sums up our newspaper review this morning. All right, and I just want us to take a very short break, and then we return back with our discussion. The healing of the nation. Deputy President William Ruto, now President-elect, has caused jitters all over, and the loss of ODM party leader Raila Odinga on the announcement of the election now seeks to put the country in yet another scene of a petition to see a dispute of what was announced by the IEBC. So where are we heading as a country? What do we need to do to get on as peaceful as the election period was? We'll be talking about the healing of the nation shortly, but we take a very short commercial break, and then we'll be right back with our discussion. So don't go far away.
Celestine Kemunto. I'm taking a bachelor's in business information technology. I chose ZTech because first of all, ZTech has been ranked among the best in ICT, and I thought it will be best. It will be best for my course. First of all, there are so many ICT labs in ZTech University, which enables students, mostly those who are pursuing IT courses, to get to know more about their courses, of which the labs have so many computers which have Ethernet, which is easier for them to browse. If I were given a chance to choose another university, I'll definitely choose ZTech University.
Apply today. ZTech University. Invent your future.
The Presbyterian Teachers College Rubate is now offering training and upgrading of P1 and ECDE certificates to diploma, and hereby invites all applicants for the September 2022 intake in the following teacher education programs: Diploma in Early Childhood Teacher Education, DECTE, required grade is discipline in KCSE. Upgrade of P1 certificate to diploma, upgrade of early childhood teacher education ECDE to diploma. The reporting dates are as from 12th September to 12th October 2022, with the option of part-time classes available. For more information, please contact the principal through 0701 508 503 or their office line on 0720 312 021 and 0711 185 283.
My name is Moaz Jamal. I'm the Managing Director of Associated Motors Limited. Associated Motors introduced the Isuzu brand of commercial vehicles into Kenya a little over 55 years ago. We've been with Family Bank a little over a year now. We've had a very good experience. There's always interaction between ourselves and the team at Family Bank. They've worked with us very much as part of the AM family. As a partner, they've always wanted to understand our business. In many ways, the name of the bank reflects what they do.
Our customers are family, and we want you to know that you can always bank on family.
All right, welcome back this morning, and as we continue with our program now, we'll be getting into our discussion this morning, the aftermath of the 2022 general election. The president-elect already declared that is the losing side and also a seemingly winning side. So what next for the country? What do we need to do? Where do we get our right footing as we head on with the normal activities of the nation? That is the healing of the nation, the election aftermath through the neutral high. And help me to welcome my guest this morning. On my near right is Reverend Simon Murigi. He's the NCCK Chair, Kiambu County, and also a clergy at the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. And on the far right is Tele Nzomo. He's a programs officer of the Siasa Place. Welcome this morning to Kirk in the Morning.
Thank you.
I just want us to begin on this note. Of course, each one of us was part of the general election. Just to begin with you, Reverend Simon, what do you make of this year's general election? The conduct, how have we done as a country and as a people?
Thank you, Mr. Sambu, for welcoming me to the show. I want first of all to say that I've been following keenly on the happenings of the elections, the whole process since the campaigns and even during the election. And I also participated as an election observer in the NCCK. And also even prior to that, we had tried to sensitize the people on the need to go and vote, and also on the need to maintain peace during and after. And what I can say, so far so good. I can say there is a relative peace. Why I say relative? Because there are also some issues that are still pending. We are not yet out of it completely, because there will be petitions, and there are people who are saying the process was flawed. But generally speaking, I would like to congratulate all our citizens because so far they have maintained peace. Despite a few instances, what we are hearing and reading in our news about some people have suffered through the elections, which is unfortunate, but not as it was 2017. So this time around, we can say that we have done well so far, but there are still some issues to continue as we heal the nation. Yeah.
Talking about we've done good so far. The young people have been at the center of it all in the previous election, of course, in regards to the election violences and the mayhem that they caused. But this year we've seen a very different scenario from where you sit, of course, and also being an observer of the election period. What do you make of this year's election?
First of all, thank you also for having me here as well. I'd agree with the Reverend for a large part that it's been a very, very positive election. Of course, we can't say it's perfect, especially when you hear about the unfortunate death of the returning officer from Embakasi East and other instances, as he has mentioned. So it's not been perfect, but how I like to look at it is, are we making progress, especially since 2007? Are we seeing improvements? Because we were never going to be perfect. It's not possible to be perfect at once. It's a progress. We hold elections, we see whether we improve. And I think that's been, the most impressive thing, that you look at this year and you say, as you said, it's much better than 2017. When you talk about young people, we went around the country prior to the election. Actually, our organization was part of the IEBC Youth Coordinating Committee that was trying to encourage young people to vote. I guess what I would say is the unfortunate side is a lot of them did not want to participate as much in elections. We saw low voter registration from young people. We have seen low voter turnout this time around, but they have kept peace. I think a big part of it is that they're understanding that there are more important things in this country, not just politics. They're now caring about their businesses, about their jobs, and they want to preserve that. And that's one thing we had from a lot of young people. We actually had a program in Kibra, which, as you know, is a hotspot. And the young people there were really, really determined as much as possible to maintain peace, no matter what the outcome. So I think the young people have really, really been done well this time around in as far as maintaining peace.
And just to remain with you, going about this year's election, should we be worried that the young people didn't come out and vote as a majority in the decision making? Of course, they are the decision makers of what we expect for the next government, but they didn't come out in large numbers to vote. Should that worry the country, even as we seek to heal from the election period?
Definitely, it should definitely worry us, because for whatever reason, young people are staying away from politics, and yet the decisions that are being made are going to affect their lives more than any other person, right? They're the ones who are looking for jobs, you know, they're the ones who are leaving high school and joining university. As you're seeing, school fees, or rather university tuition, is going really, really high. We need, as much as possible, to understand why do they not want to come out for politics. On the bright side is that we're seeing a large number of young people contesting. But for whatever reason, we're not seeing a large number of young people wanting to vote. So we have to try and figure out, the middle part, where the balance between the two. How can we get young people to understand that being part of politics is not just being actively involved or being in the Senate or in the National Assembly, that you can actually be part of politics from the outside, and that you can actually do things that can affect you and affect your life and affect also other people. And politics is a big part of it. So it should definitely worry us, but I think we should all work on it. We as CSOs, I think the church will play a very, very big part in doing that. I think in the next 5 years, if we carry out large amounts of civic education with young people, trying to encourage them, and then we see after 5 years how their turnout will be.
And just come to you, Rev. You've heard what is talked about. The young people have detached themselves from the politics, hence now they are not being part of the process. Is it one of the factors that has contributed for our peace? You talked about being part of the sensitization program and going around, advocating for peace among the young people. Them detaching themselves from politics, is that a factor that now has been a game changer for the 2022 election?
I would like to say something different from what Zoma has said, because yet we cannot get a real data on the percentage of the youth that voted, because I don't think even in our systems we can really get who participated. But generally speaking, there is that perceived notion that the young people did not participate well. But when you go to the polling stations, because I also was there, I could see young and old together. So that percentage of blaming the youth, it's only that the general population per se, we can say from the statistics, from the previous elections, you compare from 2012, 2017 to this time, 2012, the number was standing at 80%, around that figure. Also 2017, but this time the average says is 65% of the total votes cast from the total registered voters. But still, you can say there is voter apathy, but you cannot say who is who. It's generally the whole population, with reasons which can be attributed to many factors, because maybe the lack of interest in politics, from what maybe the people have been talking about. Why do we go to vote and then we don't get what we had voted these people to do? So generally we can say it's the whole population where the numbers are still continue to dwindle. And as we continue, we must be worried because even we don't know the next election. There's some people, maybe they were not satisfied. Maybe next election they may not go for elections because they feel like it has not been conducted the way it should have been conducted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that voter apathy is expected.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the people that feel that they have not been satisfied with the outcome of what they expected, or rather they have not been satisfied with how the process was done, of course that is disputing the president-elect by the electoral body. From your observation period that you were able to observe, the period that we were having the voting process, mm-hmm. and the entire period of tallying and all that, from an observation view, what are some of the issues that you picked from this election?
Well, in the polling station, things looked like they were working well, because the IBC officials that were doing the exercise, they were taking all what was supposed to be taken, even the identification of voters through the KIMS kit and the fingerprints, and then after that the process, even during the tallying, because I was there to the end of the tallying in the polling stations. Personally, I was an observer. An observer could go anywhere and still be allowed. So I went to various stations and I saw the process was okay. There were no chaos. Only maybe from what we are hearing, and it's true, maybe some stations opened a bit late, but they compensated in some areas. But generally, people voted well, and even the counting of votes, it was very transparent, because then after the voting and the counting, they could tally, and then they send, especially the 34A. Yes, that process I witnessed. It was done. What we are hearing then about verification from the whatever form, we are yet to know what happened, because that stage we could not be allowed to go, and I would have gone to that stage, but what we are hearing is the end tail of the whole matter is where we got problems. But the other processes, I can say kudos to Kenyans, and the officers. They did a good job. Yeah. And
just coming to you, Nzomo, you talked about a very smooth process that began, but the end tail is what is the problem. The IBC in the statement insisted that, if I quote, the IBC chairman said, for the first time in the history of this country, we've had a very transparent election, whereby each and every candidate was able to access their results even before we announced. Was it a transparent process from an observation view?
Okay, before I get to that, let me just clarify one thing about the youth turnout that I was talking about. He was talking about the data. The data I was using actually was from the voter registration. So we tried to get people to register to vote, and there was a target of around 6 million. We only got around 4 million, so that there's a 2 million gap there, which is a lot. And young people this time around in the registered voters made up about 30 to 35%, which is again very low considering how many there are. So that's where I was coming from. As far as the IEBC is concerned, the challenge is that you're saying the IEBC made a statement, but the IEBC now is two. So one is making a statement that it was transparent, the other one is saying that it was opaque. I would say that talking about the viewing of the forms, that is something that I was very impressed with. That as an African country, and you could see on social media other people from African countries saying you can actually follow some of the results on a portal, on IEBC's portal, and that is something that came from number one, as you know, minor case, and then the Supreme Court judgment by the team by Maraga, and that's what led to what we saw today. As he has said, it's very difficult on our side now to start saying whether these forms were right or wrong, and I don't want to get into that. I think I'm assuming, as you've read the news, that Azimio might go to court. I think the best thing right now is to let us see the case that they bring before the court. Let's see what their lawyers will say, and then let us see what the judgment will be. I think one challenge we have in this country is that a lot of people don't necessarily look at this from a neutral point of view. You know, he's talking from an observer's point of view, and you can hear he has a neutral view, and he has seen, right? He has gone, he has checked what they're doing. Most Kenyans will only listen to their politicians, and their politicians will tell him, half of them will say it was fair because the politician they're supporting is saying it's fair. The other half will say it's unfair because the politician who they're supporting is saying it's unfair. We have to find a way of how we who are in this space, media, CSOs, the church, how can we speak to the people in a way that we can educate them and say, okay, this is the processes that we saw, right? Observers usually have reports. How can we get people to read those reports that are being made by the observers so that they can have, they can look at this election, right, not from what they're being told, but they can have a view that is neutral, and that they can understand these were the challenges, because obviously it was not perfect, and then they can say, okay, these are the recommendations, because again, as I said, all these reports will have recommendations of what we should do moving forward.
Just remaining with you, talk about the process being a fair one, quite a fair one. Let's talk about a 50-50. It started as a smooth affair, but now the end result was the problem. Let's begin at where everyone was part of it. That is the results being displayed for everyone through the online portal. Should we say that is a growth of our democracy, or because people are tallying the same numbers but getting different figures, and that is where now the problem began. As much as we grow our democracy, is that a big problem that we should come out from?
First of all, that's a huge growth in our democracy. The fact that we can have a portal that is showing us these results as they come in, because that is now what we call transparency, right? We want to be able to follow these results as they come in. You remember what happened in 2007? You know, in 2007, the ECK chairman just sat somewhere and said, you know, the numbers could be cooked. And suddenly he came and said, these are now the results. We didn't know what to look at or what to follow. Again, and we mentioned this before, the challenge is now verifying this Form 34 is, right? In as far as the tallying is concerned by individuals, that is a challenge, but the challenge is mostly on social media, because social media, there are people who are there to misinform you on purpose. They want to spread propaganda on purpose, right? And that is a big problem. How to counter it, I'm not sure, because at the end of the day, we have to give people their freedom. You have the freedom to use, right? But you see with the media obviously were looking at different forms. They're not necessarily counting the same ones at the same time. I think one of the suggestions that people had was that the way the media came together to handle the debates, maybe they should have come together to try and have a way of tabulating these results so that they're showing the same thing across the platforms. That would have increased, I think, confidence. And I think that would have also countered the misinformation that was going on social media. So, but all in all, I think it is progressing, because, as I said, this came from a judgment, from the 2017 Supreme Court judgment. And I think as we move forward, I think things will get better.
Morigi, do you agree that our democracy is now growing with the scenarios that we've also witnessed in this year's election? For the first time, you're talking about verification, tallying of results that is transparent at the polling station, and a fairness in making sure these results are transmitted correctly. Are we seeing a different scenario in the growth of our democracy? Do you agree to that?
Yeah, we can say surely we have grown. From the past experience, so far so good. Even the reaction after the elections, many candidates have conceded defeat and have congratulated the winners. We can have a point in case like the Igade and Sakaja. That's a good show. And also others who are still saying that we have won. Others are saying it's fair game. So we can say we have seen growth, though there are still those issues of that presidential, which is the elephant in the room, where now there is that kind of we are not satisfied because there is Azimio who are saying that the process did not get well to them in the final declaration, and that is expected in a tightly contested election. You can imagine where the loser loses by a less than 1% margin. That can be a very, very bitter kind of loss, and I think we cannot judge them badly because they are entitled to raise concerns. And what has happened, I can say still democracy is still happening because they have said they are going to go to court. And that one is highly appreciated. And then those who have won, I have had them also not very, very kind of criticizing. They are saying those who want to go to court, they can go. And I think that is democracy. By the end, we'll see what will happen. But I can say things are not as bad as used to be. Yeah, there is growth. Yeah.
Zomo, just coming to you, it's talked about the democracy of, conceding defeat. We've seen majority of the members of parliament, the governor, senators who have been defeated, conceding defeat. But as he's talked about, the elephant in the room is the presidential race that was tightly contested, and there is no room of conceding. If at all, we have to refer to the statements made by the already announced lost team. Just from where you sit, this year's decision by the opposing side, or rather the side that was not satisfied with the election process, taking the route of we shall explore all constitutional and legal ways in our disposition that we can be able to find justice, and not calling out Kenyans in their large numbers to get into the street, especially the young people. This year's petition being quite different, is that a step towards the right direction as a country, as well as the issue of the young people not being able to be part of the process now? They are not even interested. Even if you call them out, they will not be able to come out and protest for you.
It's a step in the right direction. I think what you've said, that they're looking at the constitutional and legal means. That was a problem in 2007. No one trusted the institutions at the time, that if we go to court, we can have a fair judgment. That is changing, right? We are starting to trust the constitution. More so, we're starting to trust our institutions. And that is how we maintain peace. We maintain peace once we trust institutions. We know that we can have peaceful methods of finding redress, or finding a way out of our issues. Young people, yes, I think young people now are starting to understand. As I said, we also have to look at other factors, the economy being one. We already went through COVID. That disrupted businesses. It disrupted a lot of people's livelihoods. I don't think people right now are really ready for another disruption of that magnitude. And I think people are really, really eager to continue with their economic activities, to continue with their schools. You know how much schools have been affected, right? And that has been a problem for a lot of parents, not just the children. So right now, I think people are looking at the bigger picture. Yeah. Yes, they want the election to have been fair and to have been credible, but they want that determination to be done by institutions, not to be done by people on the streets. Yeah.
I think that is a fair point to make. And just coming to you, Reverend, let's talk about the posts. There is a declared president-elect, and there is the losing side seemingly, if at all the petition doesn't sail through. That is a factor that is of concern to the Kenyan people. As you talked as we began this conversation, said that we are off the hook, but we are not yet off the hook, because this petition, the outcome of it, then will also determine the behavior of the Kenyan people. So as a country, now we have a petition that is awaiting the decision that we don't know. Where do we move from? Where do we move from as a country for us to ensure that this pace that we're having it right now, we also continue regardless of the outcome of the petition?
Well, we need to understand in Kenyan politics, and from where we stand, the issue of loss, dealing with loss, the healing, because the ones who feel like they have lost, they have to come to terms, and that process takes time before they adjust and accept this is what is the reality. And therefore there are a lot of things that need to be done, assuming that the judgment will declare Ruto as the president. Then I think leadership comes with a responsibility. Whether it will be Raila, whether it will be Ruto, they are accountable to the people. And right now, the country is having a lot of problems, issues that need to be dealt with. For example, like if you are keen, yesterday you can see the exchange rate of Kenya shillings versus the dollar at 130 Kenya shillings. That tells you we are in deep economic crisis. And therefore, even the winning side, I think they have a lot to do and to recover from what Nzomo has said, because this has been a kind of a period which has been very difficult. The pandemic, COVID-19, and also the issues to do with the Russia and Ukraine war, which has made life all over the world to become a little bit difficult. And therefore, there is a lot that is expected to the government that is coming into power. And people are expecting within 90 days, because the campaigns are over now, within 90 days, assume it is Ruto. The promises he made to the Kenyans, it is not a walk in the park. He must deliver. And the people are not now talking about, you could see even when they are voting, that kind of voting tells you the nation was, split half, because it is 50-50. Everybody expects to be served well and given what is his due. Therefore, with the government that's coming, I've had the president-elect with his maiden speech after accepting the results. He was very positive, and he talked well on to do with reconciliation. And reconciliation is a big factor, and also not just reconciliation, let us also go a notch higher to deliver to the mwananchi. The unga that is 230 should be maintained at 100 shillings. Let it not be politics. The unga that was promised to be 100 shillings, and I could hear even Ruto in this campaign saying, bei itashuka. We expected bei ishuke within the 90 days. Also the promise on medical, NHIF for all people to be registered, and the government to give free medical. We are expecting a lot, and that healing process. And I would encourage politicians now also to think about the mwananchi. They're going to have those battles and destabilize the country, that is not the right direction. We need to have a concerted and united effort to tackle the problems that have bedeviled this country for a long time now. Yes.
And just before we take a short break, I would also want to hear from you, Nzomo. He's talked about even the winning team now coming in. There is the losing team and there's the winning team. The winning team, if at all, it has to heal the losers, then it has to meet the needs of the country. That is, rescuing the economic crisis and all that. From an observation of you and also the interaction of what we've had with the different age groups of people and the Kenyan people, that is a step towards the healing of the nation. If you look at the situation right now, are we towards that direction?
I think it's a bit difficult to say. I think a big challenge we have in this country is this idea where we talk about we don't want to be in opposition for 5 years, and we say our community or this age group or this, we don't want to be in opposition. But we have to understand that if you're government, you're the government of everyone. Yes, if you're president, whoever will be, if Ruto becomes president, he's a president of the entire country, not just who voted for him, as he said. And I think that's how we heal. When you become leader, you have to find out, how do I reach out to those people who did not vote for me? How do I ensure that I actually deliver, not just to my people, but deliver to them as well? And that means he needs to have an agenda that is cross-cutting, right? He needs to have an agenda that will go and help the people in Ukambani, in Luonyans, as well as help the people that voted for him. That's how we heal. Once people know that government is there for me, and this is also my government, and I'm also part of it, because at the end of the day, all of these seats, as Article 1 of the Constitution says, sovereign power lies with the people. Or, whoever becomes president is just exercising that power on behalf of us as the people. And as long as I think they can reach out towards that is important. It's also important, I think, on a leadership level. And once all these things are done, and it's good that people, follow the constitutional means of going to court. Once all that is done, they reach out, right? We have seen it before, not necessarily with the handshake in 2018, but you saw it even after 2013, when Raila and Kalonzo went to State House and met the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, and Deputy, and that showed Kenyans that, we are healing, we'll move forward. Part of the team will act as opposition. They will hold government to account. We will do our job of running government. I think that helps the country come together as we move forward.
And that is very important in the healing of the nation. We'll be taking a very short break before we come back as we continue this discussion, the aftermath of the 2022 general election. What next for the country? Which way do we walk? That is the healing of the nation, the losers and the winners. We'll be continuing this discussion shortly, but we take a very short commercial break, so don't go far away.
We welcome your feedback on our programming. For questions or comments, kindly get in touch with us via email info@kirktv.org, SMS 011120044, or call us on 0794 588 054.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
Good journalism is bold, in-depth, unique. Kirk TV reflects and the hub of feature stories. Choose us for exceptional stories that are about you, from you, and for you. Kirk TV presents itself as the hub of feature stories. ranging from health and environment.
Either there is extreme drought or extreme floods, and these will affect people.
Religion and politics.
And the man looked at the boy, looked at the mother, and told the boy, going forward, don't wet the bed again.
There come a time when the nation is more important than an individual.
Education and socio-economic issues.
Nasaidika kwa sababu nikishona moja mbili nauza, napata kitu ya kulisha watoto.
I have met with other tribes which I have never met before.
To other stories that touch on your day-to-day life.
Ja ndio iko mingi zaidi. Tafadhali mnasaidia maji ya nyazi.
Tingatinga amekanyanga kila kitu.
Hatujawahi kuona mabadiliko yote kuhusiana na serikali ya kujengea sisi.
Kwanza kitu naweza omba tu nishikiliwe tu pande ya masomo tu ya watoto.
Kirk TV, the hub of feature stories.
Pay for your tithes and offerings, PAP, using Family Bank's USSD solution for church collection, Kanisa PAP. All you have to do is register and pay. To register, dial code *325*5#. Accept the terms and conditions. Enter your first and second name. Then your church's 4-digit code and church name. Confirm your registration and you're ready to contribute. To contribute, dial *325*5#. Select your type of offering. Enter the amount you want to contribute. Once done, confirm the amount. You'll get an M-Pesa PIN prompt. Enter your PIN and you're done. You will receive an SMS confirmation from Family Bank. Isn't that easy? Try Kanisa PAP today.
My name is Moaz Jamal. I'm the Managing Director of Associated Motors Limited. Associated Motors introduced the Isuzu brand of commercial vehicles into Kenya a little over 55 years ago. We've been with Family Bank a little over a year now. We've had a very good experience. There's always interaction between ourselves and the team at Family Bank. They've worked with us very much as part of the AM family. As a partner, they've always wanted to understand our business. In many ways, the name of the bank reflects what they do.
Our customers are family, and we want you to know that you can always bank on family.
All right, and welcome back again as we continue with our discussion this morning on matters to do with the healing of the nation after the general election. Which way do we go? And we'll just continue with that particular discussion. And I just want to come to you, Reverend, just before we proceed. I've just seen a post here by Ruben Kigame. And he's a clergy as you are, and also a minister, and he's talking about what has happened, and it's also a process of what we are talking about this morning. And it says, just I quote briefly on his post this morning, earlier on, he talks about congratulations to William Samoei Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza team for making it to this stage of the Kenya's democratic joys. And then he goes on and says, by now I hope we all know that calling something democratic does not mean the same thing as credible, transparent or good. Considering what I know as a participant in presidential election process, everything around me has been called democratic, but it includes an alarming amount of injustice and bad manners. He's also gone ahead and talk about while I celebrate the end of a long election in Kenya, Something Christians are celebrating does not sit right with me, and it is misleading assumption that William Ruto's qualification to become president-elect is synonymous with the beginning of godly leadership in Kenya. That is Reuben Kigame raising some concern there. What is your take on that?
One first of all to thank Reuben Kigame for raising the concerns, and very unfortunate indeed because Reuben Kigame was bad with reasons which cannot be well explained by the Electoral Commission led by the Chebukati, because I think he had the qualities and he had what it takes, and being denied to be in the ballot, it's unfortunate. Pole sana Kigame, but his concerns are right on the issue to do with religion and politics, because you cannot judge the election of Ruto based on what Christians were talking about, that maybe the other divide is not Christian, because in politics it does not work like that. It is policies in governance. Maybe it's early to judge Ruto because we have not seen him work, but we should not take him like he's been there because of his credentials as being supported by the Christians. But he has to prove himself. What I can say is we need to see a lot in justice in Kenya, in the electoral process. I think that is one area that Reuben has pointed when it comes to nominating the presidential candidates and the Chebukati team and the IBC. They need to be a little bit not biased, because you look at people that were given go ahead and point in case, even when the presidential election results, even before the announcement, one candidate had congratulated the winner. It shows a lot of biasness, and I think we are not honest even in quarters of the church, because we have not been very neutral from what is happening, because even during the declaration day, we could see scuffles, and the church was there witnessing the scuffles and participating, and even taking sides, and even maybe even the following morning, we could see delegation of clergy making visit when there is another party that is wounded. And I think we need to be very careful as church that we should not take sides, as we have been telling citizens, because in such a process we need to distance ourselves until everything has been set in place, and we should not see a kind of we belong to this side. We don't belong to any as a church, because there is the loser and there is a winner. We should be neutral in this process. So I want to say I concur with Reuben Kigame. What we are seeing is not maybe what could have been expected from the church.
And talking about, just to remain with you before we continue, it matters to do with the religion and the politics. Of course, the church and the religion is a part of a critical component if at all the country has to heal from the outcome of this election. You've talked about a certain delegation of, clergy and say religious leaders taking the winning side, but then there is also the seemingly losing side that has not seen them also get the same clergy. Does that affect us as a country, as you even heal and also create a perception on the Kenyan people of what we should expect ahead, in that we are not still off the hook?
We are still not off the hook, because we still have to wait to the end of this process, and that is the determination from the court. And so far we should be very neutral, and we should not take sides. And I think there is a long way to go for the church to assert themselves. The church has been really not been very transparent in a way, because I belong to the church, and I know even prior to the elections, there are those churches who are receiving money from the politicians, and they cannot claim to be neutral. They cannot claim to be neutral. We have to be transparent. We have to be relied upon by all sides, and they should see the church as neutral as much as possible. So we are still not yet out of it, and I would call upon the religious bodies at this stage, let us be cautious. It's not yet over. Yes.
I think that is a fair point to make of the religion and politics. Just coming to you, Nzobon, it's not only the church that perhaps is being accused of taking sides to the winning side, while also neglecting the seemingly losing side. We've also seen, the aspect of different politicians leaving the seemingly losing team and getting into the winning team, and also the neglect of the losing team. Of course, this losing team has its own people that voted for them, that were, you say, an election period is an emotional period where people are attached to certain politician. We've seen that as well in this election. And also there is this other side. What perception does it place for the country if we see now the majority of the people want to be associated with the winning side, while still waiting for a petition that the outcome would perhaps give a different scenario?
Maybe if I can touch just on the issue of the church.
Yes, you can also add on that.
I'm very happy with what he said, because as I said, we've gone around the country, especially in the lead up to this election. And one of the big issues people had was they were worried about the church. A lot of people were saying, we don't seem to trust the church anymore, that they can be neutral. In some cases, actually, we've gone to areas where politicians are trying to look at, divides, in the sense of your religious divides. And they want to try and say, why you as a Seventh-day should you vote for an Anglican? You're seeing places where politicians are trying to look at those divisions. So religion has become a big part of the Kenyan politics, and unfortunately, in some cases, it's becoming quite negative. But I'm very happy to hear Reverend Simon and even other clergy and even Muslim sheikhs and others speaking out against this. And I think that should go on forward as we move on forward. And I think the church needs to find how it can best relate to politicians, because at the end of the day, we cannot and we should not stop anyone from coming into the church, but we can control how politicians behave when they're in the church, or how they use the church, at least to ensure that they're coming there to worship and not to pursue their own personal interest. And that will actually lead me into now your second question, which is seeing politicians moving across. Unfortunately, politics, not just in Kenya, but in many places in the world, is still about personal interest for these politicians. That is one of the most unfortunate things. People make decisions based on where they think they will best be served, not where their people will be served. What we are seeing, especially yesterday, the day before, it's quite worrying, because again, let us assume that the DP now becomes the president. He's getting to a point where, with so much majority, will we be able to hold him to account? Will Parliament be able to hold him to account, right? Considering if he has the majority, you talk about the Senate, you talk about the National Assembly, how will they manage to hold him to account? As far as the people are concerned, again, this is something that we see a lot. We see people moving. After an election, they move and they say, you know what, I want to be associated with government. When it comes time to the election, they realize, oh, if I'm here, I'll lose. they move back to where they were before in an attempt to continue to win. It is about, unfortunately, personal interest. And we have to find a way of how can we ensure that national interest prevails. And that's a very difficult question, not just here in Kenya. We're seeing this all over the world. You know, you look at American politics, a lot of it is also about personal interest. I think it is about the people trying to push their leaders and trying to show their leaders that we will not tolerate this. We will not tolerate this. The second aspect of it is that we as a people, even though we are not in politics, we can actually work to hold government to account. Religious leaders can work, civil society. The people themselves can work to hold government to account. We had a project in Kericho where we were trying to encourage people, if you see a school has not been completed, why can't you push a petition to Parliament, right? Why can't you ask questions of the county government, And one of the things that we saw is that they actually got responses. And in some cases, although they are small projects, it's maybe an ablution block that had not been completed, they actually started seeing results. We need to show people that you can actually, you as a person, as an individual, can actually push for changes yourself. And I think once the leaders see that the people's mindset is changing, their own mindset will start changing themselves, and how they treat us will also change. Yeah.
Quite important, Reverend. The most important thing is about, as talked about, the people as a people understanding what you need to do, understanding what are the dimension of the political landscape, and what can we do as a people. And just coming to this point of political maturity of the Kenyan people, I think that is a term that has been used especially with this election, and as a people, our conduct as well. Do you feel that we as a people have become politically mature into the decision that we take?
Well, I can say the citizens have conducted themselves well this time round. They have voted according to their convictions, but still there is a long way to go. Despite good political show, there's still more to do with our ethical behavior, where we see very critical matters. The citizens also need to be responsible, and a lot of civic education needed, that we conduct ourselves, because issues to do with the politics, it will be good to support the politics with good ethics, like the normal things that we go through, even the way we conduct ourselves on the streets or in the streets, or like even where we do our businesses. There is a lot of chaos in this country. There are people that are putting their wares on the streets. People cannot have even access roads. The disorder. We need to put this country back to order. People can even stop the vehicles in the middle of the road. They don't care. This does not augur well, and we need to tell the citizens now they are also to be responsible. Not only the politicians, they are also supposed to behave. If it's to do with the issues that we are witnessing, like voter bribery, those are the people that are doing that. We cannot just say the politicians. They are involving people. People that are, doing illicit trade. These things, they need to be put to order and educate our masses on this country relies upon each one of us. We have a responsibility. The clergy too have a responsibility. We have to demonstrate leadership. right from our homes. Even that mzee, that mama, how you are, working with your family. All these will tell us whether we are going to progress or we are going to retrogress. So there is a lot that is expected, even with the politics that is happening. We can say politics aside, but there is something now ahead of us to put things in order. I'm worried a little bit, Sambo, because there is that notion of the Hustler Nation and the dynasty. This was not very good because that tells you there are people who have now been, branded. This is hustler, this is dynasty. We need now to know all of us are equal. There is no hustler, there is no dynasty. All people are equal. These are issues that we need to deal with. And the narratives that have been put across, this should be now be a thing of the past. We work as a nation, we join hands, and then we propel this nation to the next level. There's a lot that is expected. There's a lot that is expected.
Zomo, Rev is talking about massive political maturity, but training on the political ethics. Do you buy into that as well? And what would be your view in regards to the same?
I think the one thing he's mentioned that's very important is the aspect of not just politics, society, and how we work as society. That is something important. If we were to get rid of corruption, corruption, we look at corruption only on a political level, but corruption is really everywhere, right? If you go to schools and you hear students cheating in exams, because teachers have, gotten papers or something, that is a level of corruption, right? We as a people who are complaining about corruption are the same people who are bribing policemen when we get caught maybe overspeeding or something. We have to change how we behave as a society. If we change how we behave as a society, it will then reflect on politicians. But we do have challenges in this country. When people talk, he spoke about hustlers and dynasties. I personally usually have a very different view on this issue, because I usually look at it and I say, this was something that was coming, right? Maybe we talk about hustlers, dynasties. It was coming because the class divisions in this country are real. We have the rich and we have the poor. And it's not just about a question of haves and have-nots. It's a question of how we are treated in this country, right? If I have a small car, and I am overspeeding, the police will stop me. But will the police stop somebody who is driving a Prado or they'll be very afraid, or they won't. We're treated differently. And that is what really started feeding into that narrative. These divisions are real. And it's not just about stopping or ceasing to brand people. It is how do we change that? How do we change the underlying issues that then brought out these hustlers and narratives? That was then a hustler dynasty narrative that was, in my opinion, misused by the politician, but the issues were real. So how do we then now get to a point where, as a country, we're treating people the same, so that the poor people don't feel that this is not their country? How do we ensure that a poor person and a rich person, or a poor child and a rich child, have the same opportunity in this country? The reality is, today, if you're born from a family in Rwanda as opposed to maybe a family in a slum, chances are the person who's born in a slum has to work almost 100 times harder just to get the very same opportunity as that young man who is being born in a rich family. So we have to work hard as a society and to change how we treat each other and to ensure that everybody is treated equally. Once we get there, I think we can start progressing. And even as matters of ethics, that again worried me. It worries me when I see, I will not mention names, don't worry, but it worries me when you see some people who are being elected, because these are people who have cases. In some cases, things that we have seen on social media, or rather seen videos of them committing a crime, right? There are people who, in the past, because we are starting to see some Kanu era politicians coming into the fold, and these are people who have huge cases, and I question do people actually care? Is integrity a part of our criteria when we go and vote? Right? Are we pushing the need for there to be integrity? What are people actually looking for? Yeah? And why then, if we're voting for these people, are we going to come again and start complaining that money is being stolen? Should we really complain if we don't care about integrity? That worries me. And he spoke about civic education. We really do need to increase civic education. But how we get people to start looking at these politicians in a different way, sometimes I don't know if I have the answer myself. Yeah, if I can say that. Yeah.
And the biggest worry is that Kenyans are worried that we were supporting this side. We voted for this particular candidate. He might not turn out to be the president that we wanted. And then this other side voted for this particular president who has now been declared as a winner. Now, the biggest worry would be perhaps will this president-elect that we did not vote for be able, to handle us equally as those that voted for him. I heard in the campaigns, there was a claim raised by the now deputy president-elect talked about, the money set aside for a certain region was taken by the opposition and taken to their strongholds where they did the developments. And also talking about that is something that if we take power, we will not forgive him for doing that. And I think I will be just looking at that clip. I came across it just a few days ago, and then the same statements made by the same person is the one that now is a deputy president-elect. And now that is where the worry comes in, that if in the campaigns you say that our money was taken to this region, and when we take power, this is something that we will not forgive whoever took that money in that region, and raises a lot of concerns, and also in regards to healing of the nation. What do you make of such statements, and also the worry that Kenyans have that when we did our voting, we voted for this candidate, we are afraid that this other candidate might not consider us being, we were rebels, for instance.
Well, it has happened in the past. It's nothing new. That there are politicians that get into power and then they want to frustrate the projects that were initiated by their predecessors. And I would like to urge the one that is going to lead this nation to really balance. And all regions are equal. And even the projects that have been initiated, like now we have roads which have not yet been completed. It will be a mess if we do not complete those roads. The projects that are already ongoing, it's good for the one that is coming in to complete them, and also to make sure the funds that have been set aside for those projects, they complete them. And also looking at those kind of statements and saying that I will take maybe what we are hearing, the port of Mombasa will be taken back to I don't know where, and also the Naivasha, and these are projects that have been have costed Kenyan taxpayers money. And therefore, we need to be very careful not to play politics in issues to do with the economy. And would like to urge the political class that they should deliver to the mwananchi and do what is supposed to be done, not on political, to gain political mileage. This country needs a lot of healing and to balance. And I'm looking forward to see what Deputy President, now the elect President, what he said. His government will be inclusive. I'm yet to see that, because as of yesterday, we could see people now even joining the Kenya Kwanza, because it's the winning team as of now. And people are paying allegiance to the winner. But it should be
of concern.
Because he also said, because we are now kind of putting everything that President-elect says, that he he's going to include all people in his government, and is not going to be biased, and is not going even to have vengeance on his critics. That is yet to be seen, and I hope President-elect will keep to his word. And I think he has started well with the statements that it is government that will be inclusive, will not discriminate, and will embrace each and every one of the citizens. I think we need to be very careful at this point.
Talking about inclusivity, Nzono, our voting patterns are those of ethnic balkanization, and if you look at the celebrations of the president-elect, you will note that they were celebrated in certain ethnic places where the big support was for the president-elect. That is one factor that is also derailing the healing of the nation. That the different parts that are very happy as of now, the different parts that are not happy of now. We've made progress in the democracy, we've made progress in the voting patterns and also in the transparency of our election, but we seem to be ailing from, getting rid of the of voting under the ethnic balkanization. Is that a factor that we still have a long way to go?
Yeah, we have a long way to go with that. And you have to understand, this is something that has been cultivated for the last 60 years of Kenyan independence. And truth be told, politicians have used it because they know that the best way for me to stay in power is to have a huge support base. And the easiest way to get that support base is to have my big ethnic community behind me. And it's not something that we can change overnight. It's not possible to change that overnight because it's also changing people's mindsets. And that's not easy. It's not easy to change somewhat of a culture in this country. Right? It is something that has to happen slowly, and I think it's something that we're going to have to target, in my opinion, not even people under 35, looking people under 25 and below, so that we ensure the next generation is viewing this country differently. We need to, I think, work on civic education and try and work on having people talk about issues that affect them, because at the end of the day, as much as yes, we're divided along ethnic lines, we have the same problems, right? Myself and another young person, I might be a Kamba, maybe somebody from Eldoret. You'll find that we have the same challenges: unemployment, the cost of living. If we can push people towards looking at those issues, right, we can try and change their mentality. But that really has to happen with the younger generation, because not to say that the older people are a lost cause, but I just don't see us changing that. But I think slowly, as time goes on and as we move on, we can change these things, but it won't be easy. It's not something that can be done overnight.
Not something that can be done overnight. Rev, what can we do to end this, ethnic divisions when it comes to politics? When it's about matters to cry about the cost of living, we cry as a nation. But when it comes to voting, we vote in our different ethnic groups. What should we do for us to get out of that trap? From your own perspective,
from what happened with the voting pattern, it can clearly tell us that we were regional in politics, and the factor of the Mount Kenya really played a great role in deciding the elections, and also the Rift Valley. But you look at that map that was projected, you could see the blue and the yellow where it's concentrated, and it tells you there are some regions that were not blue, there were some regions that were yellow. So this politics is more of tribal, and we need to change that narrative. We need to change that narrative. How? It's only God that will help us, and a lot of inclusivity in the government, and also treating people equally, as Zomo has said, because we have seen a certain kind of culture that if you don't have money, then you cannot be treated equally. That is something that has really played against the politics of this nation. I'm looking forward to see this tribal, because it is still tribal, even as of now, because why did the two candidates, presidential candidates, have to look for Kikuyus to be their running mates? Because the Mount Kenya population is huge. And therefore that was the deciding, this is what we are calling tribal. Why did they go for another kind of a region? Because no political party that can be spared here, because they were very tribal, even in their campaigns, and telling people on the things that we have already said, this region and that region, they have benefited, we have never benefited. I think we need to change this kind of politics. It's high time. It's high time.
Is it a matter of changing the entire perceptions of, or should just Kenyans change their attitude towards the electioneering period?
I think Kenyans, we do need to change our attitude towards the electioneering period. We need to, as I said before, we need to ask ourselves, when we go and we vote and we are looking for leadership, who do we consider to be a good leader? Do I consider as a Kamba that my fellow Kamba will be a good leader? Do I consider a young person, my fellow young person, or an old person? We need to ask ourselves, and we need to weigh these issues. One thing about the electoral period, and this now will, it's a bit going back to what we were discussing about the process. We can't allow elections just to end, and then we say now we'll see each other in 2027, and we start a new electoral process. We need to have a way of, number one, being able to audit what has happened before. And we ask ourselves, where did we go wrong, right? In as far as the process, but also now for us as civil society, as religious leaders, to look at what happened with the people. You know, how are they voting? What were the challenges? What can we do between now and 2027 to try and get people to change how they vote, right? What can we tell them? What can we do to meet? We have to ensure that elections are a process that we continue doing year in, year out. Not necessarily the campaigning, right? We only talk about campaigning, but the process is long. We are talking about being observers. And as I said, they're going to release their reports. What happens when those reports are released? Do we just take the reports and then we leave them there? Or are we going to look at what has been said, the challenges, the recommendations, and try and implement them, right? Is Parliament itself going to do an audit check? Because Parliament, at the end of the day, are the ones who are the budget making process, the one who release money. Are they going to look at whether they were releasing funds to the IEBC in adequate time? Did the IEBC have funds adequately, right? When you talk about civic education, IEBC itself is supposed to conduct civic education. Did they conduct any civic education, right? Did we as civil society conduct any civic education? What was the role of the media as well? We have to do a postmortem of these things, and we have to look at where we went wrong. I think that's the only way we can start understanding that, okay, maybe we need to change people's attitudes, and this is the best way we can approach it as different organizations and as different sectors in the country. But we can't just say, okay, elections now are over, let's stop talking about politics, let's stop talking about everything. Of course, we want to move on with the economy and things like that, but we also have to figure a way that we can do so while trying to prepare for the next election. Because if we just wait for the next 5 years, we're going to find ourselves in exactly the same position. You'll find us here talking about the very, very same things we're talking about today. And that's not right. Yeah.
And as also, because I'm told that we left with just a few minutes, I just want to take a view from you, Reverend, as you look at the scenarios that happen in regards to the church and politics. Of course, the church has to, accept the results, but also there is a dispute from the political view. So, should the church now go ahead with the decision of the electoral body, in that for us to have peace, then we have to accept first of all the outcome of this election, even as the disputing parties get to resolve their issues through the legal path, and also should also the religion, take side in the disputing part of it.
That is a complex issue.
Definitely.
Because, as I said earlier, it's not yet over. There is a party that is already in court to dispute the elections. but still we stand with the declaration that we have constitutionally now the elect president who is going to be sworn in office in the next few days if these people will not go to court. But if they go to court and there is that court process, then I assume the president, or Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, is still going to be the president until we wait to that very end. I would urge the clergy and the church, organizations and religious organizations to be neutral, because we are still far from calling it off, because until the determination of this case, we cannot be saying what maybe we can candidly say it's final. We have to wait and be neutral. And even after getting the president-elect sworn in, we still need to be neutral. We still need to put into account, and we put checks and balances to his promises, because as a church we will also behave like a watchdog to see to it that what was promised to Kenyans, they get their right. And therefore we still need, we have a lot of work to do ahead of us. It's not just to sit there and celebrate. There's nothing now to celebrate about. It's back to work and support whoever will be in power. We can support, but not just support blindly. We will be putting them into task. We do not know who, but if it happens it's Ruto, fine. If it happens it's Raila, fine. With us we have no problem, but we need good leadership.
I think that is a very good point to make of that. And just as you conclude, Mr. Nzomo, from the general view of what we expect to unravel in the next week, of course, the petition, and also just coming out from an election period, and now the country settling in for a transition of new government, what would be your final remarks on the healing of the nation?
I think first and foremost, I just say that we should be thankful that we have this process, number one, of transitioning. As you know, we have African countries where their presidents have been there for such a long time. We actually have a process in this country where we go for elections, where we transition presidents, right? And it's not easy considering the region where we come from in Africa and where we have also come from as a country. So we should be very, very thankful for that. It may not be the best process, it may not be the smoothest process, but we are also improving. I think we can say, looking at this election, it is better than 2017, it is better than 2013. So clearly we are moving forward. And I think we need to take the positives. And we also need to think of the challenges, as I said, that face us as a country, and understanding that the only way we are going to go through them is as a country together. Some, of course, we don't necessarily have to agree with the incoming government or say we agree with everything that they do, but that is part of democracy. We will say that we are there to disagree with you, and hopefully you will listen to what we say, our issues, and try and address them. But moving forward, I think it's very good that we have maintained peace so far, by and large, and I hope that as we continue, we will do so. We will continue maintaining the peace.
I think that is a good point, and also a very nice place for us to wind up this discussion. So thank you so much for making time, for us to have this fruitful discussion this morning in matters to do with the healing of the nation. Quite important for people to understand what way next for us to be able to go, even as we wait for the petition, because that is what is keeping us at bay. And I also see Reverend Baye talking about I love the view that we can control how politics behave when we come to church. Of course, he's supporting just the opinion that you gave and the position the church should take when it comes to politics. And that is where we wind up. Thank you so much, Reverend Simon Murigi, NCCK Chairman, Kiambu County, and also a member of clergy for the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. Thank you so much for making time this morning. And also Tele Nzomo is a programs officer of Siasa Place. Thank you so much for also making time this morning and being part of this discussion. And that is where we wind up our morning discussion in regards to the healing of the nation. Thank you so much for tuning in. So we do this again next week on Friday, a different discussion. But on Monday and Wednesday, my colleagues will be back with Kirk in the morning. Different discussions, but the same place. But for now, goodbye. My name is Chris Ambu, and have a lovely morning.
We welcome your feedback on our programming.